Today is Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. I am Mark Beavis. Welcome to the program. On the show today, we're going to look at a class action lawsuit that's been filed against a number of Canadian financial companies. Have you been caught up in the data breach? We're going to look at that. Also, the latest Canadian inflation numbers are out, and yes, food is still expensive. We're going to look at those numbers. Plus, the BC port strike that was off is back on. We're going to cover the latest news from there. So let's get started with today's news. A class action lawsuit has been filed against a number of Canadian and U.S. financial institutions. Merchant Law Group LLP has filed a suit against Mackenzie Investments, brokerage Edward Jones, InvestorCom Inc., which is a company that provides back office services using a program called Go Anywhere, and U.S.-based Fortra LLC, which is the company that owns Go Anywhere. The suit alleges that these institutions failed to protect their clients' confidential information, including social insurance number, when data was stolen in a cyber attack back in January. The suit was recently filed on behalf of investors who hold Mackenzie funds and live in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or Newfoundland and Labrador. There are a whole slew of other Canadian financial institutions that are also clients of Go Anywhere, including RBC and TD Banks, AGF Management, HSBC Canada, Invesco, Caldwell Securities, and Equitable Life of Canada. These are all InvestorCom customers, but they say that they have not been affected by the breach, and in fact, they are not named in the lawsuits. Also, Franklin Templeton, they say that social insurance numbers weren't revealed in the breach, but names, addresses, and account numbers were. Now, an interesting twist to this lawsuit is that in many cases, the information that was stolen of individuals that had not held assets with any of these fund providers for several years. Under law, Canadian companies have to dispose of any personal information when it no longer fulfills its intended purpose. The question I have here is whether years later, the information that was stolen was actually still serving an actual purpose. Now, the claim also alleges that there was a high probability that an entire batch that was stolen was dumped on the black market or the dark web. In response, Mackenzie has stated that there's no evidence at this time of any misuse of investor data. It's also offering its clients 2 years of free credit monitoring through TransUnion, as well as fraud victim insurance, $1 million in identity theft insurance, and monitoring of the dark web for exposed personal information. The latest inflation numbers here in Canada are somewhat encouraging. For the first time in more than 2 years, the CPI has fallen back into the target range of 1% to 3%. We often hear this number of 2%, which is the ideal Bank of Canada target rate. Most recently reported statistics show that the numbers are 2.8% year over year. Obviously, 2.8% is that average, but there's going to be some outliers. I want to look at a few of those here. Gas prices were down 21.6% year over year. When these are compared to the prices back in June 2022, which were obviously very inflated. Month over month, gas prices have actually risen 1.9% when we compare them to May. We also continue to pay significantly higher prices for groceries, which rose 9.1% year over year. The largest contributors here, meat was up 6.9%. Bakery products rose 12.9%. Dairy products rose 7.4%. Fresh fruit prices grew 10.4% year over year. And who would have guessed, but the price of grapes is actually up 30% from last year. Mortgage interest rates, we've talked a lot about those here on the channel. They've also continued to weigh heavily on Canadians. Mortgage interest costs were up more than 30% from June of 2022. When we look at the core inflation, so this is a number that strips out the most volatile components of CPI, things aren't quite as rosy. The Bank of Canada actually uses this core inflation as their prime measure when they make interest rate decisions. The numbers there are closer to the 3.5% to 4% more recently. Now, my take on these numbers are that things are definitely moving in the right direction. They are encouraging signs. That said, I don't think that we can really go out and get too excited about the Bank of Canada making any major shifts in its policies at this point. The bank raised its interest rate earlier this month, and they are projecting inflation to stay relatively high. They're not expecting a decline in core inflation to reach the 2% range until about mid of 2025. Now, the next date that the Bank of Canada will make a rate decision is scheduled to be on September the 6th. This Monday, our Investing Academy team joined the Blossom Social team in Calgary, and we had a truly amazing time meeting around 100 or so of our students and members for a meet and greet in downtown Calgary. We all live in this online world today, right? And personal touch is sort of escaping us in many cases. Sitting down, and chatting with so many of our community just really reminds me of why we do what we do, what our purpose here is on this YouTube channel. We heard so many personal and inspirational stories from our students, from our members of both the Investing Academy and Blossom. The experience truly to me was humbling and very, very inspiring. Now, if you're not on the Blossom app yet, I do encourage you to give it a try. Have a look at the stocks that I'm holding in my personal account. I will put a link in this video. If you are in the Toronto or Montreal areas, we will be there the first week in August, and we really hope that you're able to join us. I really expect that those events are going to be truly epic. There's trouble again at British Columbia's ports. The Longshore Workers Union has rejected the tentative deal that was mediated last week, and they've once again started strike action. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union in Canada said on Tuesday that its decision to go back to the picket lines basically is focused on the fact that employers have not addressed the cost of living issues faced by workers in the past few years. Now, the strike originally started back on Canada Day, so July 1st, when about 7,500 workers took job action. This has affected about 30 port terminals and other sites across the province, and the most important of these, of course, being the Port of Vancouver and also the Port of Prince Rupert. There had been a tentative deal that was reached last week, but the renewed job action obviously has kind of set that aside. What does the government have to say about this? Well, Labour Minister Seamus O'Regan has hinted that there may be the possibility that they'll be introducing back-to-work legislation. In a statement, he said, "We have been patient, we have respected the collective bargaining process, but we need our ports operating." What are your thoughts? Should the government step in to intervene in this very important area of our economy? Now, this week, Tesla and Netflix, they're reporting later today. So after market close, and by the time you watch this video, those numbers will be out. I really wish that I had those numbers now before I film this, but it's too early in the day at this point. We'll probably talk more about these on our live session on Friday. Thursday, tomorrow, we have reports from Johnson & Johnson, Philip Morris. On Friday, American Express is going to report. I will be back here on Friday along with a special guest. Brandon will be with us this week. He's going out on his annual fishing trip. So sitting in with me will be Dylan Deans. Now, Dylan Deans will be here to answer your day trading questions. This is really a chance to ask the expert. Dylan is a friend of mine. He makes his living day trading, and he did ask me to mention before he accepted the invite to be on the show, the markets are going to be open Friday during the time that we're filming the video, during the live session, so he will be multitasking, so he may be distracted a little bit by the action on his screen. But I'm looking at this as a really great chance to sort of for you to pull back the curtain on this whole mystique of day trading and get a chance to ask your questions to an actual real live day trader during market hours. Now, as always, I will thank you for watching this video. There is a link for our Investing Academy in the description below. I'll be back and see you in a couple of days.